Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be back here at PHILSME Business Expo. And today, we will have a deep dive on how brands created, but it's not just us creating, we're co-creating with leaders. So just a little bit of a quick check because I cannot see with all the click lights pointing at me, but how many here are entrepreneurs? Can you raise your hand? People working in brands? Students? Okay, so my talk for today is actually about co-creating brands that are authentic because we're all tired of gimmickry. Long gone are the days na one way lang ang communication. Yeah, you feed something to the public, and nowadays, people have different channels to talk back to us. So, what is design? People look at it as a noun. Some people look at it as verb. But a design for tomorrow, we redefine it as an intention. So, we are actually not just a branding agency. We consider ourselves as making visions visible. That's the crucial part of how we do things. So, we do branding, we do strategy, we do design, we do editorial, and also experiences because a brand is never static. It has to live in different platforms, virtual, digital, physical, and even experiential because we do a lot of hospitality brands, for example. We work with clients from Tokyo to Tel Aviv, from Manila to Melbourne to Munich. Recently, we completed a project in Tokyo and Vienna as well. So as our client said there, despite being geographically separated, it was a seamless experience. So that's what we strive for all the time. So how do we do this? Some of the projects that we have done so far, there's a client there in Berlin. This is a project with Thames and Hudson in London. That's a project in Vienna, and this is my case study later on from Singapore. So from Munich to Kuala Lumpur to New York to Pretoria in South Africa and Hong Kong, we operated for the last 14 years in a borderless way in our approach. So that's a project in Melbourne. This is, we unveiled in Tokyo last October. This is in Mandalay, in Yangon, and even in Bangkok. We work with a lot of clients, established and newcomers. In fact, my final case study for today is one of the emerging brands that we have discovered in the last PhilSME Business Expo. So, we work, what we said, brands can only be very powerful if the vision is very clear and intact. So that means working with the leaders is very important in the definition of a branding program, for example. And we always start with authenticity. So what do you mean by this? Because this is becoming a very overplayed word in marketing nowadays or even in public relations. So every time we are called to do a problem solving, for example, ang una naming tinatanong is, what is the truth about you that nobody can challenge? That's always question number one. We begin with this particular question because we need to dig deeper into something that nobody else can steal or copy from you. And the second question is, or what do you have that is not easy to replicate? If you can answer these two questions, nagsisimula tayo not just from a point of clarity, but a point of engagement. So you need to really dig deep into what you're doing. What is something that nobody can steal from me and nobody can easily copy from me? And we will build from there. We'll show you the way. So, case study number one. This is one of the most important marker of authenticity if the founder is a client herself. Because you're not gonna produce something that is harmful to you, right? And this is a project that started with a strange call. I was in the airport. I got a call that says, hey, you don't know me. I got your number from the founder of La Picara, the restaurant in BGC. And they gave me your number. And it was a very strange call. She said, I'm launching a beauty and wellness brand for people with autoimmune disease. You know, it's a really difficult kind of condition like Chris Aquino. You know, you're always high inflammation, prone to allergy, and so on and so forth. Because she herself suffered that, was diagnosed of that particular condition, and she's hard pressed to find beauty and wellness product with no harmful chemicals. So since there's a lack for this brand in the market, she took it upon herself to really research. She worked with scientists and chemists in defining the first, at least, organic skincare brand. Her name is Sonam. She's the founder of Founders Beauty in Singapore. So we did not do just like jumping into design. We really took a couple of months understanding the competitive matrix. What's the ownable position that we can have? My colleagues, for example, spent just 3 months looking at websites, Instagram feeds, looking at value propositions. And the most important thing is, where can we find a gap, considering that the market is already oversaturated with beauty brands and wellness brands? So what we did is, after studying how we can differentiate them, we had to establish the brand foundations and craft a strategy for differentiation for Founders Beauty. And then after that rigorous exercise, we created hashtag Founders Keepers. We call it the Conscious Beauty Movement. And then we defined a manifesto of what they stand for and why they are different. So it's not just like a praise release kind of thing. It's going deeper into the layers of meaning why this product or this brand needs to exist. Then we built the foundation from the typography. We highlighted the natural component of it with all those hand-drawn patterns, for example. And this is the logo that we devised. The FB is actually a very simple but very elegant mark, combining the monogram of Founders Beauty, but also it has that kind of leaf component without making it too obvious. You know, Design for Tomorrow is always known for sophisticated, elegant or restrained design. So we did not do too much. But however, the colors are very, very vibrant. So, you know, a way to cut through that very competitive landscape. Packaging, the press materials, even the digital assets are done in a very cohesive and seamless manner. So after this, 6 months later, at the tail end of the pandemic, another strange call. This time from Kuala Lumpur. And the founders were intolerant. What I mean by intolerant, they are both lactose intolerant. But they love ice cream so much. So they started doing all these mixes, plant-based kind of frozen dessert. You cannot call it pala ice cream if you're not using milk. So by regulation, you have to consider yourself plant-based frozen dessert. So this is Ishpal and Serena from Kuala Lumpur. The problem is actually manifold. This is the logo. So they have been doing this in a kiosk in Kuala Lumpur, but then the pandemic happened. People are not going to the physical store. The prime problem that we need to solve, they need to enter a highly cutthroat area, which is the frozen goods sections of groceries. The second layer of the problem is they're entering a new market. From Kuala Lumpur, they would like to place this brand in Singapore and Bangkok. So different tastes, different cultural preferences, different design sensibilities. So what we did, again, we studied the pricing, the quality of the products. My colleague Bernadette is over there. She spent at least a couple of months trying to figure out what makes this brand tick. And we interrogated everything. The current vision, why did you say it like that? How can we say it differently in a way that is not very static? And then after a series of conversation, we pinned down the values. And this is what made us fall in love with this brand in the first place. Because their mission is kindness. Kindness to your body, because there's no harmful ingredients. kindness to the environment because they're doing, whenever possible, organic or natural ingredients, and their packaging should not have those kind of elements that are very harmful to the environment. And the third layer of the kindness in their mission is kindness to each other. And from there, we built the core values and we added delight. Because whether you are from a humble socioeconomic strata to the super elite, we all love frozen desserts. So the goal is we added delight because when you're given something that you expect, that's service. But when you're given something you did not expect, that's delight. And that's where the brand love starts. And we would like to put delight because our strategy is to democratize happiness. No matter what your mood is, the minute you eat ice cream, you perk up. So from there, we develop all the kind of meaningful pillars for the brand, even the tone of voice of how the copy should be written. But the most important thing is, did we really understand the market? And if this is the market, there's three layers because there are cultural differentiations between the market of Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, and Singapore. But we were able to figure out who are these people that we would want to be part of the Kind Cones tribe. And then from there, we created the idea that as far as Kind Cones is possible, everyone is invited. Very inclusive. So, on the rightmost panel, that's the picture that Serena sent me to be the basis of the color of the brand. So again, we always listen, we always interrogate, and we said, why these colors? And then we figure out that it could be a differentiating color in this category as well. So we constructed several ideas, mga iba-ibang ideas on how to really pin down the graphic mark. And from there, you can see we have a very expressive, customized word mark with the little flourish of the letter K that it becomes also an icon in their social media. And we used the idea of ice cream making as the differentiating graphic device. The ingredients, the process of swirling became a very vibrant and expressive way so that when you put it in a very busy environment like grocery refrigerators, for example, they're screaming at you from at least 30 meters away. And then we also advise them how to present the product in a very graphic way. And this is one, and expanded the merchandise as well because people started to get all these amazing elements that people can wear. Also serving as our walking billboards and help the brand have a certain kind of mobility. Then some of the t-shirts that we produced during the launch, and even the social media, we produce stickers to make it interactive and make it really engaging, especially for the young people. So, this one is what we consider one of the most meaningful brand that we have ever done. I don't know if you're familiar with Coco Pan. They have a really challenging task. They're headbutting with Red Ribbon, Aling Julies. And then my colleague Shaina, who is the first line of defense in whether we say yes or no to every project, we nearly said no to this project. But then we met Gino, and he said, you know, we are in the upward trajectory. We have 4 branches, but we wanted to open at least 20 branches in the next couple of years. But what really got our attention was, sinabi niya, think of the call center agent, the sole breadwinner, who will rush from the home to the office, and the entire morning, the only sustenance that she has is pan de coco, what they're doing. And she is the sole breadwinner in a family of 6. Or a tricycle driver that will keep on working until 3 p.m. and the only thing that he ate since the morning coffee was pan de coco. And then we realized, oh my God, you are not actually a baking brand. So we figured out that we have to repurpose the name. The cocoa will be our essence, the courage to continue. You know, the daily struggle of everyday Filipino is, and the resilience is fueled by the humble pan de coco. So they love this. And then we refined the logos. We did not change it, but we refined them because we would like to preserve recognition and equity that they have already established. But we made it very vibrant. We made it very graphic and very consistent. And we even had the Christmas packaging that they did last year. They're very happy. One of the amazing things, people started Instagramming it. And then the other layer is we developed a unique brand on voice called the Coco Lingo. It's a combination of social and bakya. You know, mahilig tayo sa ganyan eh. So, and that's how they write the copy up to this day. We call it the Coco Lingo. And then, digital as well. And we even help them. They didn't have budget for architecture and interior design. So, drawing on our hospitality experience for the last 14 years, we created a simple framework that can easily be replicated consistently across branches. And the introduction that we did is this awning stripe inspired by sliced bread. So it's very graphic when you go to Tondo or wherever, when you see that orange and brown stripes, it's immediately screaming, Coco Fan is in the neighborhood. So the other, before I go to the final reveal today, is the idea of how do you say or how do you tell a story? And this is a legacy-making kind of project. There are three sisters, Laura, Lorraine, and Lorleen. So this is a very challenging project because you have three Chinese sisters who do not agree with each other all the time. So kami yung guidance counselor, nanny, at the same time, psychologist of the three, you know, to keep them all together because they have one vision but different ways of doing it. They were inspired by their grandfather to be entrepreneurs. Now they're building the most high-end event space in Manila and would like to honor the legacy of the grandfather. In our first meeting, they brought this book that the grandfather have published, and inside, you will have this idea of a story inspired by 1,000 cranes. Anybody familiar with the story? So when the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima, a lot of people were suffering from the radiation and cancer, and one of the girls languishing in the ward is a young girl named Sadako. So the village was depressed. It's the hope of that village. Then one day, this kind old gentleman went inside the ward, sat beside her, and told her a story that according to the ancient Japanese legend, if you fold 1,000 cranes, the fondest wishes of your heart will come true. So the girl kept on folding and stuff it under the bed. When she passed away, people discovered this, and the entire community started folding the cranes to complete the 1,000 cranes to fit that story. And it became the universal symbol of hope, the indomitable human spirit, as well as the friendship between the old man and the girl. And this is the obsession of this grandfather that they would like to embed in the brand that we are creating for them. So what we did is, since they're doing a lot of, the event space market is very saturated, we look at the idea of putting all the elements together, and then to differentiate them from the others, we knew that the physical design done by HBA partners, who is known for high-end hospitality design, identity that we're designing, the experience, and the brand voice will be the differentiating strategy. And then after a series of conversation, we wanted that this is not just a space, but where dreams and aspirations take flight, that created the inspired spaces for inspiring moments kind of strapline. But then, we had another layer of problem. How can the idea of 1,000 cranes can be translated to marketing and promotions? So we went back to the story, the act of folding and unfolding. The act of folding and unfolding of flavors because they're doing food and banquet sales. The folding and unfolding of textures because the environment is so grand. And the folding and unfolding of experiences and feelings because you're not just renting a space, you're cultivating the highest aspirations of your clients. So from there, To unite the three sisters and remember the elegance of the legs of the cranes in the book of the grandfather, we used that as a graphic device. This is a space to stay true to the concept. Our primary palette is Japanese parchment, which is what you use to fold that origami. This is a place of celebration. That's why the secondary color is champagne. So nothing, when you work with Design for Tomorrow, nothing is out of place. Everything, every choice has a layer of meaning and why they should be there. And the three sisters become the three legs going from the ground going up. And we customize the font to have that. And even the mark reflect that kind of sensibility. It's very sophisticated. And it looks like this in applications. So it's super high-end. Then we studied how that origami is folded. That is the pattern. We customized it, and it is present, embedded even in the environments. You see all our patterns from the ceiling to the furniture, down to the uniform, down to even the packaging. That's the advertising that we did for them. And the visual strategy is decidedly super high-end because they want to differentiate from the other event space in Manila. So this is how the logo looks like on top of the building in BGC now. And they are one of the most premier events. So whether you're doing corporate meetings, sales rallies, or even weddings and debuts, call Marquee because they are really amazing people. My final presentation is special. We were here last year to help Trixie of PhilSME. And we met Cookie. She's actually there. And we told, we're gonna volunteer one of the attendees in last year's SME. We will handpick and we will complete a full rebrand free of charge. And then there were so many submissions. And then the team was unanimous in picking Cookie because there's something about growth and resilience that resonated with all of the team members. So what we did, we invited her for a very long conversation to really pin down what is her story. Remember, is plantitos tsaka plantitas relevant pa ba yun? So we're beyond that wave. So why would people still care about this? So this is her old logo. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's very decent. But if you want to grow beyond this, you cannot look like a clip art that anybody can just easily download off the internet. We need it to be really meaningful and very graphic. Then we also studied, look, that's her Instagram feed and the website. Again, most startups will always go to this. Just keep on feeding something and there's no consideration about is it resonating? Is it creating traction? Because the goal, especially in algorithm, is keep on feeding. But then again, we see this kind of feed and when we just scroll on. So after that conversation, we love the idea, what really do you represent aside from selling plants? So the idea that growth begins with a touch of green. Green is a color of hope. Even in finance, green is the color of flourishing, the color of money, the color of constant growth and direction. So what the idea is, every sprout is a promise of a new beginning, and that is what we associated to the journey to wholeness. Then, we created the idea that when you cultivate something, a living being, you are also in the path of rediscovering what you are made of. It is also the way plants thrive, you also thrive. So it's a parallel towards paano yung planter and the plant can really thrive together and in a very resilient climate. So we started the analysis. We really had to pin down the story right. We love the idea of growth, nourishing and cultivating. Then we crafted the brand foundation, transformation, opportunities, solidarity with community and nature, and harmony, which is so much lacking in a very noisy and a very loud world. So what happened? We created the brand values as well. Inclusive inspiration, which she is an advocate for. Conscious cultivation. We need to find things that give meaning to our lives. And of course, pinning down the idea that everything should be intentional and have a purpose. Because sometimes we flow through life from point A to B without even having a direction. So she wanted to remind people that a single act of caring for plants is also intentional. You do it not just for yourself, but because you have the capacity to really cultivate life. So then we define the characteristics, and then I'm running out of time, but the foundations, and then we love the idea when we're trying to personify the foundations of the brand that it can be the every stages of plant making, taking roots, branching out, and flourishing. And then from there, we created the, when you're dealing with touch of grain, you are co-cultivator, you're the champion of cultivation. And that becomes the symbol of the story. At Touch of Green Manila, we believe every plant is a quiet companion, a symbol of care, patience, and growth. Each pot contains tiny green lifelines, one part of a bigger story. A gentle invitation to slow down, breathe deeper, and find healing in the everyday. From the first sprout to every new leaf, we remind you that growth begins even with the smallest of steps. Because with the right light, a little love, and a touch of green, your space becomes a sanctuary, a place where healing takes root and takes you to a whole new you. That is Cookie's story, and she is now living that through her brand. And then we developed the identity, the colors, we made it very vibrant, but also earth tones. So the idea of the touch of green initial, the four leaves, that represents her four core values of transformation, opportunity, solidarity, and harmony, and the union of the elements forming the whole. We created that in graphic mark, and it becomes like this. So we wanted it to be explosive and vibrant, so it has very bold graphic marks and an identity, and it's translated consistently across all the product categories and offering that she is doing. And then, of course, we're also guiding her in the expression and the communications later on, and it's consistently done. It looks very, very alive, and even the tone of voice and the digital, we are now helping her in the full rollout as well. So what can we learn from all of this? That authenticity is about what gives you meaning, and you have to build from that meaning and project that meaning into the world for it to be viable. Because we always say this, a brilliant idea that remains in your head is not valid. It has to be out there. People should be engaged with it. So the 4K study, the authenticity is in the needs, in the mission of the brand and the people, in the story that we are projecting to the world, and also a path or a intention or a way forward as well. So we are designed for tomorrow, and then we always give the supreme artist all the credits. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gindap, for sharing with us Coco language, and also sharing that it really is important to find the gap and be authentic when it comes to business. So, again, thank you so much. It's time for our next speaker.
Oh.
Yes. So, a quick photo op.
Yes, this is Cookie, by the way. And we would like to unveil her brand and congratulate her personally. She had a lot of really challenging times during the pandemic, and she found the refuge and salvation through Touch of Green. And we couldn't be happier to be her partner in articulating her vision.